So the reason for this update session is because we have several new things to share with you. We have a new level library, not really new, but a new naming structure for MicroStation levels. So there's new naming for the design levels, the survey section levels, the mapping division. So these three groups have a new naming format, which is geared for our rollout next year of open roads. So a lot of these here will be tied to a feature definition so that you can do, I think, 3D design in open roads. So that's the whole reason for this. Not the whole reason, but that's the main driving force for this. Another reason is, I'll let Chris talk about this, but coming from the design standpoint.
We just released the new naming convention, this morning or last night?
Last night, yeah.
So the naming convention, y'all should have gotten that email a couple days ago explaining what it is. We'll make sure we get that a little more memorialized in a drafting standards manual. But the naming convention matches what is from the National CAD Institute and from multiple other agencies that I've reviewed. Hopefully it allows us to become a little more efficient with our items. More or less, we kept everything the exact same. The only thing we really did was, besides changing the name, was we got rid of duplicate levels. So for example, there were about 5 different types of match lines, all of the same color and line thickness and line style. So when the instances where they were duplicated, we just combined them into one, so that way there shouldn't be any more issues of which is the right one to select. So if you, in practice, find that you are creating new levels to make things that you're drawing more frequently, come talk to us. We can get it added to the level library. The library that we've got now is very bare bones compared to other agencies. We've got in design division about 200 levels. Many agencies have them in the thousands. So we can be as complex as we want to. The way it was set up, though, is fairly simple, but I could see definitely room for improvements and additions. So again, in practice, when you're using it, you see something you're drawing all the time, that means other people are doing it too. So just let us know and we'll get it added.
Yeah, so this is the initial release, so it doesn't mean this is set in stone. If new levels need to be added, that's fine. All right, and I think this is also part of the standards, just trying to get part of the quality control process in design division, so that people are on the same page. Other updates today I wanted to share with you guys is for the aerials. Right now, I think you're familiar with downloading of the tiled aerials from VLA. So we now have a web map that you can bring into MicroStation, and it's a 4-inch resolution, and you won't have to download individual tiles anymore if you use that web map service. So it's kind of like Google Maps, where if you're viewing the entire county, it only brings out pulls in a minimum number of data points, because you're not really needing every single detail in the county at that zoom level. And then as you zoom in, it'll automatically stream in the data. Showing you how to connect to that. Another thing is TNL requested a tool which might be useful for you as well. They have striping plans, proposed plans, and they want to do estimates for each section on a plan. So when you go to your design model, it's just one big plan, but they want to be able to fence in the part of the area that's on the reference plan sheet and sum up the total lengths for a particular level. So now that tool is available, and I'm going to share that. If it's useful for you, you might find that needed for your projects as well. There is also a new dimension style called 0.125 sheet dynamic. what that means is the arrowhead. The old ones, we still have the old ones. The arrowhead is either inside or outside, right? Because that's the way it's defined. Well, this one will automatically put the arrowhead inside if there's enough space, and when there's not enough space, they'll automatically put it outside. That's it. And also, there is another dimension style called the 0.175 section arrow and section. That's been there forever, but I'm not sure if people know what that's for. So I'll just kind of show you guys. You know, once you see it, you'll know. You're like, oh, that's what it's for. Talk about the Connect client a little bit. That's a new requirement that Bentley's going to impose on us. Otherwise, they're going to tack on a 30% increase in fees. Basically, it's a way for them to track usage and build statistics. So they're basically forcing people to use it.
Does that Connect client somehow intrude on our usage of the product?
Very good point. Currently, the connection client, you're probably well aware of what that is. It's that thing that pops up in the right-hand corner every time. Well, we're pushing out updates soon, and with the new update, you should be able to log in and hide that forever. And because there's a setting for it to automatically log you on and hide it. So I think I've seen it work okay where it doesn't pop up every time now once you log in, whereas before you would log in and it still pops up. So
what is it, connection client?
Like I said, it's a tracking system.
Ah.
It's to track how long you've used the software, which software, and eventually it'll be kind of a licensing tool. So that will be the way to license usage. Yeah. Yep. All right, so let's get started with the levels. So like Chris said, the levels, we have a general format that these were renamed. The first is we have a main category. Maybe this one might make better sense. Like this one, for example, we've got a main category called Geom, which stands for geometry, meant for open roads, in-roads work. And then a subcategory for plan. This belongs like on a plan view. And then the actual description of the level, center line, and whether this is proposed or existing. If it's proposed, there's just a what's that? Prefix and suffix. So this is the suffix. Suffix PR for proposed and suffix EX for existing. As you notice, on the right to that, there's a column for the description. Prior to this, a lot of the levels, some of them didn't have a description. So we made sure that all these have a description to them now. So all the design ones, all the survey ones, all the mapping ones now have a description. In the new MicroStation, you will be able to search for levels. So you can type in EX and it'll pop up all the EX levels. So right now, not available, but in 6 months it will be. Also, with this migration, we are now opening up access to all the levels. So you're going to be able to access mapping levels, survey levels, and eventually, when we're done in phase 2, Waterworks, sewer, TNL. So right now, those are still in progress, but we're releasing these as soon as possible so that you can use them for your upcoming projects. So there's filters here. If you want to, you can, if you're only working on design stuff, you can filter all these. Total, there's right now about 400, 500 levels, including like mapping, survey, and all that. So just design is about 160. By the way, you can also customize your own filters. So if you have questions about that, you can contact us. Make your own custom filters if you want.
I gave Angie a tips and tricks.
Awesome.
To how to do that. So
awesome. It's not the most straightforward thing, so making a filter. It seems like it, but there's like one little nuance.
So all the old ones are still there, though, right?
The old ones are still there in your existing projects if you use them. So if you open up a new project,
Yeah.
a new seed file, then none of the old ones are going to show
Yeah.
up. Yeah. So if you're working on an existing project and you need to pull an old level, it's not going to be there anymore. That wasn't used before.
Yeah.
But if it was used in that file, then it's going to stay there. So we are working with the vendor to write a script that will convert old DGN files with old levels into the new levels. So we have a correlation of what levels belong to what old belongs to what new levels, and when that's done, we'll make that available for you so you can upgrade your old files if you choose to. So, let's see. There are new utility levels, so let me click on the filter for utilities. These are all been requests by the standard committee and construction division because sometimes the lettering on the utilities are either too big or too small for the plans, and so there's a specific size they wanted. They wanted 0.1 on all the lettering for the utilities, no matter what scale they were referenced in onto the sheets. And so we created these, which are using annotation scaled line styles. And so I'll show you here. Here's an example of how it would look in action. Let's see, let me get to project-wise. How many of you have used the annotation line styles? I mean, the line styles have been published for a while, but not the corresponding levels. So if you use line styles, you could have seen the utility line styles already. Let's see. Okay, so over here I have a sheet with a reference to the design model at 2 different scales. You can see one is at a 40 scale here on the left, and then on the right I have a 20 scale reference. And so let me go over to the design model and put in some utility lines in there. Okay, so actually I did put in already sewer, existing and proposed, and I think it's just the levels are turned off. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit so hopefully you can kind of compare. Well, that's too close, too far. All right, so I know the lettering is kind of small, but basically the lettering here and here for the S is the same size despite being in different reference scales. So this is what they wanted. So this is 0.1 inch in height. This is 0.1 inch in height. It's the same size. So there's 2 important settings in order to get this to come out looking this way. In your references, let me zoom in so you can see. So here I have this reference selected, and I'm going to show you the two settings important. The first one is the true scale, and the second one is this line style by reference scale. So in order to get this to look right, this has to be off. If I turn this on right now, you're going to see the line just kind of become solid because the S is basically too tiny to see. So I'm going to make sure that is off. And this true scale needs to be on if you have some dimension styles placed as an annotation scale on the design model. So now let me go back to the design model and illustrate some text placement. Also, at the same time, we'll be showing you the new dimension style, the dynamic dimension style. So I'm just going to go here and do some dimensioning.
Because you got the manual location set up.
Yeah, right now I've got manual set up, so that's why I'm kind of just defining it on my own, but depending how you prefer this to be, I think by default it's on automatic. I just changed it to manual for the purposes of this session. So you can see in the dynamic dimensioning, it automatically places the value outside if there's not enough space, and if there is, it'll put it inside. I think before you had to switch back and forth. So this was a suggestion from Christopher, so we made it into action. All right, so now let's go back to our sheet model. Notice the dimensions, they're also the same size. So this is something to be aware of if you want to dimension in the design model, is to make sure that annotation scale is turned on. So I'm just going to do some more dimensioning, but I want to point out this right here needs to be on if you're doing dimensioning in the design model.
For that element?
Yes. For that element.
So if you wanted to show the 75 feet at that text height, but let's say another one, you don't really care about that one. Do you turn on your annotation scale?
If I turn off my annotation scale, let's see what happens. It dimensioned it. It's there, it's just...
It's super small or super big?
It's super small. And it's 0.1 inch. So this is actually 0.1 inch on the design model. So the reason why this text is so big, it's not that it really is that size. It's that we placed it as an annotation, so MicroStation can display that as if it was referenced at a certain scale to your sheet. So that's controlled from your design model properties. Here's my design model properties. And I can control that right here. The size of the text for annotation scale text is determined by this setting here. So let's change that so you can see how that will affect the drawing. Let's change that to 20 scale and click OK. So notice the text got a lot smaller. So this is how it would look if you reference this over to the sheet model at 20 scale. Is it really this size? No. It's just a virtual text for helping you do your drawing. Yeah. So this is something that's recommended if you want to really put stuff in the design model. Most people do their dimensioning and notes in the sheet model. and don't have to worry about annotation scale being turned on.
Really?
Yes,
Can you still correct it in the design part?
in the sheet model.
The sheet.
Uh,
You correct it? Or you have to go back to this?
You have to go back here. Yeah.
Or if you have two different scales on the sheet, sometimes you show one reference is one scale and the other.
Exactly, and so here I have one. Let's go back to our sheet model. Over here I have two different scale drawings of the same thing. It's the same building, but one's at 40 scale, one's at 20 scale, but the text is the same size.
Oh, I see. That's right.
Okay, so this is where if people want to put text in a design model, this is the way I think works for what most people want to do. Like mapping, their text is locked. Like here you can see the texts are really big, but they want it that way. They want the text to be set in stone. So in this case, you don't want to use annotation scale. The most important thing is the utility lines styles. I think that's the most important. Other than that, most of you guys seem to do your dimensioning on the sheet model, so it really doesn't matter.
I mean, it's still recommended for us to do all the annotations in the
Sheet,
right?
correct, yeah. All right, and so there is now another dimension style. So here I have some section arrows, and there's been a mystery about what this particular, there's a particular style down here called 0.175 section arrow. What's that, you know? Okay, so I'll show you what that is. I'm going to go to my note tool, and I'm going to select the 0.175 section arrow. What's this say? No, I don't want to save changes. And so now I can create my section arrow just with this. Oh, I forgot to turn on annotation scale. And make sure to change that to section arrow. And I think I have to also make this manual. So. Okay, so there's your section arrow, just from using a note tool. So no more need for cells and placing like the arrow manually. Just use that. Okay. That was created by Henry, so I can't take credit for that. How many people knew about the section arrow like style? No? Okay. All right. I didn't know either until he told me last month. So the most exciting thing, I think, for me at least, is the aerials. Let me show you where you can, or how you can connect to that. So in ProjectWise, we have a standards folder. So you're familiar with the different folders, department projects, division folders. There's an old CAD library, and below that is a standards folder. Within there we have some spatial data, and part of the spatial data is now an aerial folder with links to, not links, but this is the actual configuration file that contains the web server location. And all you have to do in MicroStation is go to raster, attach, and attach this guy, and you're done. That's pretty much it.
So attach the XWMS folder.
Yep. And I'll do that right now. Note there's a text file below that called instructions. for some reason, if you don't have the XWMS configuration file, those instructions show you how to create that from scratch. And the actual web address, if someone asks you, what are you linking to? You can tell them, well, this is the actual server it's going to. So these aerials are the exact same ones on VLA right now. It's coming from the exact same source. So you could feel comfortable that you're not getting something sacrificed. And you do need a good network connection for running these aerials. I attached these this morning, so I'm just going to go ahead and attach another one. So I'm just going to go File, Attach, and attach WMS because this is a web map service. And then I'm going to attach that configuration file. Here it is. So the name of the file is Aerial 2017 Lariat 5. So this is iteration 5 already. I think the one on VLA is iteration 2. So we've gone through several iterations. And we do now have a level called General Aerial. So I'm going to change my level that it's going to be on to the aerial level. Did I miss it? And then I'm just going to attach this without touching anything else. And it worked. For some reason, this did not work earlier, but now it's working. And let's kind of verify this by seeing if the land base matches up.
So what are the limits of that area?
All the way to the end of the county. Yeah.
You can clip it too, right? So then
You
it
can
just
clip
has to
this.
Load all. the
Correct.
control.
You can clip this.
Does it make your document really large?
No, because every time you open this, it's going to the server to pull the data in. So it's very light.
So if we had to share the document or copy it to...
As long as the user has internet connection, they can see this aerial. It's not limited to inside. So
Is
this,
there a possibility to clip it and then that merge to master? Can we do that?
I'm not sure. I have to investigate. We had that same question earlier.
Which one?
Can we take this aerial and merge it to our drawing so that it's carried within the drawing? So I don't know. I have to do some research. I'm not sure if they can do that. Maybe there's a way. I just don't know.
So Remy,
Yes.
so this one automatically gets on top of that other image, huh?
Well, these ones I have turned off. So
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, those, this map that you have right now,
yeah.
this right-of-way map,
Uh-huh.
it automatically overlays on top of that?
Yeah, I think aerials are always on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like drag and move it to
No.
a common point?
No, I don't. Oh no, never manually drag your references around. Always just reference it as a coincident world.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is already in the right geographic location. So otherwise, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't be sharing this with you because the other aerials, when I load them, they're not in the right geographic location, and I've contacted ISD about it, and they don't know how to. Like, I don't know. They don't seem to know.
From the VLA label?
Yeah, for ArcMap, it's loading fine.
Yeah.
But when it loads to MicroStation, there's some additional settings, I think.
Yeah, and you have to change
They-
one of the settings for the aerial images to fall in the exact location.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
they have to do it on their end because even it's not a MicroStation setting on our end. I think it's when they created the aerial. There was some setting that was missed on there, and I believe.
So this makes it easier, less steps.
Yes.
What level does this get, I guess, assigned to?
Well, as you noticed earlier, I just assigned this to the general aerial aerial level just now. Otherwise, it goes on whatever level, active level you have.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So let's zoom out. So the question is, how far does this go out? So let me do a fit view. And it does the whole county. And notice the bottom has some error. This is what we were seeing this morning for the whole thing. And I guess now it's working for part of it. This happens when the data isn't able to stream in. So if there's something preventing the data from coming in, that will happen. All right. Any questions about this guy? I'm not going to cover the instructions because you can just attach it by looking for this configuration file. So let me go and turn off this aerial. It's kind of busy. I'm going to now show you the new tool that our vendor Archway made for our TNL group, which may be useful for you. And it's this tool called the length report tool. So it calculates the length, or sums the lengths of everything in a fenced area for the active level. So in this case, I'm interested in this right-of-way line. So let me make this an active level. It's not selecting.
Can you just Alt-click?
Can you?
Yep.
Okay. I learned something new. Ah. Thanks. All right. That will be used in the future for me. All right, so now I have the active level on the street right away. This is a mapping level. And I'm going to use my fence tool, do a clip so you can see better. Maybe bring all these toolbars kind of close together. All right. So in this case, I don't want to do inside. I just want to clip everything that crosses the boundary of the fence. So go back to it. So I'm just going to draw a fence here and click the length report. And what it will do is calculate everything within that fenced area. Okay. So this was because TNL, they have their striping plans, and they wanted to calculate some cost estimates for striping for each sheet. And so they could just go to their design model and then put a fence in now and calculate all the striping for each part of the project.
Does this work only in design view or sheet view too?
Sheet view too.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's going to measure in inches or feet. So I haven't tried it yet.
Or because it doesn't have units.
The units is whatever is active.
Okay.
So right now we're in survey feet. That's survey feet.
So if you do in sheet, you scale it because it's in.
I haven't tried it. Yeah, it's a good experiment to see what it does. This tool is not perfect, I'm finding there's a couple bugs in it, so if you do it the way I just did it now, it's fine. But some people asked this morning, well, what if I change the level halfway through? So, okay, if I change the level halfway through, let me now pick a different one. I'm going to Alt select this one and run it again. Well, now it worked. It should be 0, so it's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I have found some things in here that's kind of buggy. So because it's not officially released from Bentley, it's a custom tool. So there's
So it measures everything on that level in the fence.
correct. Yeah, and it highlights it for you. As you can see, it highlights the area that was done.
How do you turn this tool on?
Good question. Let me show you. That was the whole point of it, and I forgot. Go to Tools, and under Tools at the bottom there is a option to open the toolboxes. The shortcut key Control T does it as well. And in here, you're going to look for the toolbox called DPW. It should be called PW now, but actually we would confuse this with ProjectWise, so we can't call it PW. So let's call it DPW. LAC, PW. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no department.
So yeah, once you do that, you'll get this toolbox, and I think you can dock this just like any other tool. So that's the existence of this guy.
I bet TML loves that tool.
Well, I've showed it to them. They said, we want that tool, and then when I shared it with them, they tried it once, and then I never heard back. So I don't know if they're using it, or I don't know. I don't know.
It can be useful.
You don't have link, no area?
What's that?
No area?
You're the 4th person to ask that today, so perhaps we should request one for area. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But just know that if we do one for area, what it's doing, I think it has to be a polygon. It has to be a closed polygon.
Yeah.
So it might get tricky.
But then again, you can use your measuring tool for the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some other measuring tools here, but maybe not necessarily a fenced area. You know?
Yeah. That would be.
I'm not sure how they estimate, let's say, lettering that needs to be painted on roadways or striped on roadways.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe if it's stop or stop ahead,
Yeah.
or something that's written in the roadway,
Yeah.
that can be useful.
Yeah,
Unless
That
they
definitely
estimate
can-
that in a different way.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything can be done in MicroStation. It's just a matter of how much effort to put in to create those custom code and things like that. So I think Henry said in the past there was one guy in design division that made a script. You could push a button and it would do all the profiles and all the cut sheets and everything.
Cool.
And then that's it. You're done.
Okay.
So that's it with the new tool. I talked about the connection client already, right? About logging in. Okay. So I think we're ahead of schedule today. We have another 15 minutes. So if you want to get some practice on connecting to the web map, this would be a good chance. Also, the difficult thing for some people is the annotation scale. So if you're using annotation scale or the new utility line styles, is that showing up correctly the way you want on your sheet? So if you have a design model right now, and you reference that in using the new lines, utility line styles, is it showing up the way you want it? That's the question. So it's up to you guys if you want to run through that or not. If not, then we can end right here. So.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I think in the future things to come is feature definitions. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but levels you know of, but feature definitions is something that will be attached to the levels, which give that level more information, like what type of material that is. Is that concrete or asphalt? There's stuff in there that is related to the new Open Roads software. Levels, phase 2 of this, we're going to be adding sewer, traffic, and lighting, waterworks levels. Maybe also architectural landscape levels, I'm not sure. Right now those are still outside of MicroStation. The seed file, in Design Division there may be a new seed file where if you go to MicroStation File, New, you're going to have a seed file with different models already in it, an aerial model, a survey model, design model, kind of some structure, so that I think that way new users working on new projects have a similar format in their organization. And the seed file, earlier we learned about how I set the design file properties to 40 scale. So the new seed file is actually out already. You don't have to go in and mess with that. If you start drawing your utility lines, it should already show up the way you expect it. And then the cell library is being updated. Christopher is working on putting together an updated Design Division cell library, and when that's done, we'll publish that. So that's it. Any questions?
Useful tool.
All right, great. So, all right, thanks guys. I'll just end here, and I'll stick around if you want to hang out and ask me questions. So I'll be here. I have another session at 2, so yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
David.
Yeah, no problem.